You are listening to the In the Travel Know podcast, where we talk to game-changing leaders in the industry on how they got to where they are, trends they think will transform the industry, what they believe is the future of travel, and how they support sustainability, diversity, and young people in travel. Are you ready to get in the travel know? Hello, and thank you for tuning into the In the Travel Know podcast, powered by AVIS Budget Group and supported by the ITT Future You and Waterfront, the creative agency for ambitious travel brands. My name is Jamie-Lee Abtar, your host, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Donna Allcock, who is the Strategy and Implementation Manager for Great Britain at Tourism Ireland. Welcome to the show, Donna.
Hi, Jamie-Lee. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Really well, thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here.
You said you had a busy start. You were at the House of Commons. Were you launching something new today?
As we record this, it's actually the week of St. Patrick's Day. So that's a great opportunity for us as a destination to promote the island of Ireland while it's front of mind of people. So we had an engagement there today. Busy week for us in our events calendar.
Oh, I can imagine. Well, the Indie Travel Know podcast is all about highlighting and showcasing influential leaders within the travel and tourism space. And of course, for me, I think it's really important to show a background of where you got started, how you got started in your particular role, how you even got into the travel industry, and what was that journey like? From where did Donna start? So if you could tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into travel, what was that first job, if it was in the travel industry, you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So my journey started actually, over 25 years ago now. I actually joined the travel industry when I was 16.
Oh, wow.
So I joined as a travel apprentice, which back then was a YTS scheme. So I hadn't been to college or university. I didn't even have a passport, in fact. But I joined a scheme with Thomas Cook at the time. Okay. I was living in Stoke-on-Trent, and I did a couple of years going through my apprenticeship in their retail store there, which was a really fantastic springboard, really, to the rest of my career since then. So I think a nod to knowing I was on the right track was probably my first award as such was back, I became the North West Midlands Youth Trainee of the Year.
Oh, wow.
So I think at that point I knew I was probably on the right track. So a few years later, I moved to the head office. I relocated to Peterborough, and then a really quick skip through of probably the next sort of 15 years was in all sorts of different roles. I worked in learning and development. Then I moved into tour operations. So I had great opportunities and experiences there. So I was working with lots of different destinations. I was traveling a lot. I was working in new product development. So I got to work with lots of kind of big international brands, destinations. We used to do feasibilities, business cases on new destinations, new products. So that was really interesting and a really fantastic foundation really for the rest of my career since then. Then I was made redundant back in around 2013. Okay. And at that point, that was a real sort of reflection point for me. And it was at that point when I was starting to look around and realising that I had all this kind of vocational experience, but I didn't necessarily have an academic qualification to support that. So there was an opportunity at the time to apply for a scholarship. It was a really kind of an exclusive, the first scholarship that had been offered with Leeds Beckett University, for which I believe there was entrants from all over the world. And I was lucky enough to have been awarded that scholarship.
Oh, amazing.
So I then went on to do my degree in travel business management. So I graduated after a couple of years with a first class honours in that. During that time I did some consultancy work with some specialist brands, and then I also moved to London at that point and took on a job with a travel meta search company, and then went on to a number of different roles. So I've worked across with travel agents, tour operators, with OTAs, with meta brands, and a couple of bits in between as well. I've done a couple of secondments and career breaks, if you like, within that as well. So I worked at the 2012 Olympics. I was a hotel area manager there. And I think having started quite young, when I got to around 30, I kind of thought, I think I need to just try something different at that point, and I took a career break, and then I kind of just went traveling all around the world.
Oh, amazing is that?
Yeah, for 6 months. So that was great, and I had the opportunity to come back to my job, and then I moved on to my first director position. I joined a board for the first time, and then I'm currently, that's kind of a very quick tour up to where I'm at now, at Tourism Ireland, where I've been for the last couple of years.
Oh, amazing. It seems you have a really diverse background within the travel industry, but the different places you've worked. I just think it's really amazing. And it's now led you to that tourist board life, which is slightly different again. Going into Tourism Ireland, was that the first time that you worked within a tourist board? Or
it is, the first time. So, and I think that's great in itself to show that, even all those years on into a career, there's just so much more opportunity still. There's so many areas that you can work in and try. And even at that point, I hadn't worked in a tourist board or the public sector before. So it's been something different again. So I'm learning different skills and different perspectives all the time, even now.
And tell us a little bit about Tourism Ireland. What's Tourism Ireland? For those that might not be aware, what's the role of a Tourism Ireland?
So Tourism Ireland is responsible for marketing the island of Ireland overseas. So we operate across over 20 markets globally, and we deliver really great, innovative, world-class marketing programs to an audience of around 600 million. So I work in the Great Britain market, and that's one of our kind of priority source markets. Great Britain is the largest source market into the island of Ireland for visitors and for holiday makers. So my role in particular has got, I guess it's got 3 strands to it. I'm really lucky because I get to work across lots of different teams and different projects and initiatives. So I guess my 3 core things are market intelligence, so that's ensuring that any consumer, competitor, market insights that they are kind of reflected in or responded to within our planning at a market level. Then the second thing is implementation. So the core purpose of my role originally was around delivering on the recommendations for our growth strategy and really kind of maximising that lifetime value of our holiday maker. And then it also is implementation from other project work streams. So, for example, I'm on our global sustainability task force, and we had a Brexit task force coming up to the EU exit as well. And then change management, which could be anything around improving processes so that they're kind of more efficient, more effective, better value. And that can also involve change as a result of any of those kind of work streams above. So I'm really lucky I've got such a diverse role, really. And then other examples of what would be happening within my office with other teams is, so we'd have the teams working on the marketing campaigns, so they might be looking at campaigns going on TV or broadcast video, out of home, digital, social, publicity. We work a lot with trade and industry partners. That could be travel agents, OTAs, air and sea access carriers. So all sorts of different things going on in brand partnerships.
Brilliant.
So,
Thank you for that. I think that was really insightful, because I think a lot of times we hear about tourist boards and you might not be, if you haven't worked in one, you might not be aware of what's the things that go on? What do people do in tourist boards? So it's good to have that kind of background knowledge of some of the different things that you guys do while you're there. So
most definitely. I think luckily, we've got a really creative, innovative team as well. So a recent example, we've just worked on a media partnership with Spotify, for example, to mark the Belfast being awarded the UNESCO City of Music. We get involved in broadcast opportunities. We've got a lot of activity for St Patrick's Day. We've had a festival where passers-by can interact with billboards, and that's going to be in Times Square and in Sydney and Berlin and London. So I think, as well as what people would traditionally associate as traditional marketing channels, we're always kind of pushing into new ideas as well, which is great.
I've seen some really interesting stuff that you guys have done. I don't even want to go into it right now. Probably as we get a bit further down, but I've seen you do lots of stuff with TikTok, and I thought it was really cool and clever. Yeah. But what would a day in the life of Donna look like? What does a day in the life of Donna look like?
Well,
Zoom
gosh.
meetings and...
Yeah, I think as I mentioned a few minutes ago, it could be any number of those things. So if let's have a think about this last couple of weeks in particular. So it's great that we can have live events now. So that could be a trade promotion, or it could be a consumer promotion, or I could be working on our sustainability task force. So we're delivering on a number of actions for that. And I get to work with colleagues not only in our market in Great Britain, but colleagues across lots of different parts of the world as well, which I think for us is a real opportunity that's come out of the last couple of years. Whereas normally I might have been working mainly with people in my market. No. I could be on a project with somebody in Frankfurt or Milan or Paris or wherever. So it would depend really, but it normally falls, as I say, across one of those sorts of things. Three strands. So it would depend whereabouts in the team. Yeah.
Okay. And what would you say, because you've had a very, very vast, you started at the age of 16 and you did mention a few like highlights, but what was that kind of, do you have a career highlight and why?
I think that's quite difficult to answer, actually. I think I would say, on reflection, my career is made up of lots of different highlights, all for different reasons. Possibly, if I were to pick one, then, I would say kind of getting to like a director level and joining boards, because. And I think I don't mean that for the status as such or the boast of that, but more around kind of the journey to get there. As obviously, there's been quite a journey to get to that. So and there've been so many highlights along the way that have all contributed to that. So I think it's hard to pick one. That is something that I'm proud of, but I would say that there's just been so many highlights along the way, really. Yeah.
And what would you say is probably like one of the biggest factors that has helped you to be successful? Is there anything in particular you think?
Yeah, again, lots of things, but I think learning and people, I know that's two and you only asked me one.
That's fine, two is fine.
But probably learning people and loving what I do, because they all kind of interlink really. Learning, I've always had this appetite to just keep learning more. I always want to keep learning. That means whether I'm learning officially or whether I'm just observing people or learning things on the job, or I'm super interested in people. I'm always wanting to get involved in stuff. Things. So I've always kind of got myself involved in lots of extra things, and therefore I've met people. I think our industry is really unique in that the people are just amazingly supportive along the way. So yeah, I suppose to summarise, there's probably two rather than one, but just by always keeping learning having great people around.
Your network.
A great network around people who support, or people might, whether it's helping with an introduction or whether they're officially coaching or mentoring you, or whether it's they don't even realise they are, whether it's just their quiet counsel or they're listening to you. But learning and people for me definitely along the way.
Hi there, this is Sam Ballard, the Managing Director of Waterfront, the ambitious creative company for ambitious travel companies. This episode's Waterfront Moment is all about technology and the way it can be utilised by different travel companies, in this case, Tourism Ireland. A few years ago, Tourism Ireland ran a campaign called Fill Your Heart with Ireland. The campaign used biometric data. I think it was a Swedish couple who had never visited the country, and it measured different metrics, like it measured their heart rate and used head-mounted cameras that recorded their travel experiences. The producers compiled clips of footage that coincided with the couple's elevated heart rates when they hit certain destinations and looked at their physiological responses. It's a great use of technology, particularly in that technology can sometimes feel a bit gratuitous. It can sometimes feel that it's been bolted on for no apparent reason. By all accounts, the campaign was a huge success. I think the 30-second video on YouTube has more than 3 million views, and all of the other metrics look like they kind of prove that this campaign really managed to cut through. It was a great use of technology. It was a great use, particularly of showcasing a really exciting destination like Ireland. This is your Waterfront Moment, brought to you by Waterfront, the creative agency for the travel industry.
Well, our audience is mainly like people looking to come into the industry, and people who are already in the industry and might be looking to maybe do a career change or something like that. What advice would you like offer to somebody who is looking to, who's trying to succeed and want to be kind of recognized for their role or for their work in the industry?
Yeah, I would say, again, with the learning, kind of having a growth mindset. So, always being interested in knowing more, learning more. That includes being interested in people. I would say be prepared for setbacks, because it's not all easy along the way. And that really helps sort of build your resilience. But trust the process, because often those really difficult things are the things that really help you grow and progress, more so than the things that you find sort of easy and comfortable. And just to be remarkable and memorable for the right reasons, really. And that doesn't mean that you have to have the loudest voice or the fanciest job title. It's just, have a think about what are you great at and how can you contribute and make a difference, and be prepared to do things that scare you or put you out of your comfort zone. Again, it's that sort of growth mindset, but just try and be yourself along the way. You'll find that, that greatness in you that will come through anyway.
Success is different for everyone, and everybody kind of defines it differently. How do you define success?
How would I define success? Gosh, that is quite tricky. That's a harder question than you think, isn't it?
We all look at success differently,
and that's right. It does mean different things for different people. So for somebody, it could be being a CEO of a multinational global company.
Money. It could be so many different
for somebody
things.
else, it could be just securing your first interview, really.
Exactly. It all depends on the stage that you are at in life as well.
It's all relative, I think, to the stage that you're at. But I think it's about having some intent, though, and some goal, and not only the success in isolation of achieving that, but what journey have you gone on to get that success? What's the before and after bit of that, rather than looking at success of one thing of isolation? But what I think it's not is, I don't think it's not having the greatest job title or the highest pay that you've had, or all those things. It's other. I think it's a bigger. It encompasses quite a lot of different factors. Really.
So on the podcast, we talk about influence, which is to get a background about you and who you are and how you got to where you are. And also we look at the insights bit of things. So the travel industry is being massively impacted over the last 2 years. We won't say why, but I think everybody knows. And how has, as a tourist board, what changes have you guys have to put in place? How has your business transformed in the last 2 years?
Yeah, so most definitely, and I'm sure you'd have similar answers from a lot of people in this. But I think even people that have worked in the industry through other times of crisis, I've certainly worked through quite a lot of them as well. But obviously, I guess the sustained period of the last couple of years, challenges are probably a lot longer than what we're used to, and I think it's taught us that although it's vital that we've got robust plans and forecasts and things in place, I think it's more about having that balance now around having solid plans, but also being able to think on your feet, being able to adapt those at quite short notice, and sometimes with very little information to make decisions off as well. So I think kind of leadership, or anyone in roles moving forward, I think there's a lot more of a blend of those kind of reactive as well as proactive skills of things. Like most businesses, we had to adapt to becoming virtual, but that again has led to great opportunities for us. Well. So it's been about thinking of the opportunities that have come from that. We have recognise the importance of just great constant communication as well, keeping each other informed, having the opportunity to work together. And we have a very strong function around strategy and insights in our head office, where we're constantly monitoring what's going on in the market, talking to our partners, talking to our consumers, and really having quite a good handle and barometer on what's happening outside and how that needs to feed in on how we're operating as well.
Brilliant. And what trends are you watching? What's Donna watching right now? It could be marketing, technological. what are any particular trends that you're seeing, or even consumer, because I know you spend a lot of time looking at consumer insights, what you're seeing.
Yeah, and we're watching all of those things, as you say, marketing trends, technological, kind of what's going on in that macro environment overall. I think if I were to pick one standout one, I think sustainability needs to not be seen as a trend or a niche, but needs to very fast become just a mainstream and something that's embedded into everything that we do, really, rather than be seen as, a trend that we need to be responding to. There was a report from the IPCC last month about, it's a really narrowing, it's a closing window of opportunity that we've got to do something about that. So I think that's something that we need to stop seeing as a trend and be taking action on it now.
Definitely. And what skills do you think, so a young person coming into the industry, what kind of skills should they consider now?
I think there's all sorts of skills for all sorts of roles. I think the biggest one that anybody could have really is just a great can-do attitude, because we have to remember that sometimes when you're entering an industry or you're changing industry, you might not have all those skills yet, or you're looking for an opportunity to develop those skills. I think if you've got a can-do attitude, then there's so much that you can do. But I would say also, just have a good energy, be resilient, determination. I think we're quite a personable industry, so good communication skills. That said, there's so many more jobs in our industry that aren't just selling travel or creating travel. So you might be analytical, or you might be creative, you might want to work in sales or finance or content creation or all sorts of different things. So have a think, what skills do people need to be in those roles in travel, and how can you get them? And again, that can-do attitude, I think,
is super important. I think we've heard that every single guest we've had on the show so far has definitely said that can-do attitude is top of the list. And it's super important for the travel industry, and that, we definitely need that. Yeah,
and I think if you talk to people that might not have had work experience yet, I think it can be frustrating for them to be asked for this whole list of skills that they quite naturally haven't necessarily had the opportunity to do yet. So just get involved in any opportunity you can to upskill.
Take the leap, just jump. So tell us a little bit about what Tourism Ireland is doing as it relates to young people in travel and encouraging young people in travel.
Yeah, so fortunately as an organisation, that's something that we really do invest a lot of kind of time and resource in. We have a global graduate scheme, and that's been running in the organisation for around about 20 years, actually. So what that is it's a 2-year programme. We have a rolling intake of around about 15 graduates per year. And there's 2 elements to that scheme. There's the business element. So the graduates will come into our organisation and they will get placed within all sorts of different teams. So they could be in a trade team or a marketing team, a publicity team. The other great thing about that is they have the opportunity to be placed all around the world. So our graduates might be working in Paris or New York or London, or in the past I think they've worked in Sydney. And so there's opportunities across all our markets globally. And within that, they will really get immersed right into the heart of our activity. So they'll be integral. They'll be involved in the team just as much as any of us would be. And then the second element to the scheme is the academic side of it. So they will, there'll be an element of study as part of that as well. And they will get a global leadership management diploma. And there's also the option at the end of that, I think, to go on to another level and do a master's. So at the end of that scheme, they'll have their global leadership management diploma. They'll also have some fantastic experience within the organisation as well. And it's a really successful program for us. So a lot of that talent will hopefully either stay within our organisation and has gone on to take other positions, or they might go off to industry back in the island of Ireland or elsewhere as well.
And how can people find out more information on that program? Is there something?
Yeah, so the program, it's advertised annually. So I think our next intake will be coming up. Our 2023 intake will come up around about October this year. You can follow Tourism Ireland on LinkedIn. The only thing just to mention on that particular scheme is the intake of that scheme is from universities and applicants on the island of Ireland. So there you get the opportunity to work elsewhere. That's a scheme that's available on the island of Ireland, which is obviously our kind of core base of our organisation, and that also gives an opportunity for us to kind of give back to industry
brilliant. That's a brilliant scheme. Definitely check that out if you live in Ireland.
Actually was with we have two graduates in our London office at the moment, and I was asking them today about some of these things, what do they think are some of the skills and some of the things that make a difference, and they were saying, just to get involved in as much as possible, and even if it's kind of scary or it's not in your comfort zone, to just really go for these opportunities.
Just do it. The just do it mentality. And as we get ready to wrap up, my two favorite questions to ask, and the first one is, if you weren't Donna Allcock, the strategy and implementation manager for Great Britain for Tourism Ireland, what would you want to explore? What do you want to do, you think?
Well, I was thinking about this answer on the way in, and throughout kind of we skipped through that career earlier, but within that time I've been through redundancy a couple of times within that, and I've had the opportunity to try other things, and I've tried a couple of other things, but I know from doing that travel is right where I need to be. And where because you feel like you've actually had the chance to explore in other areas and everything just by having that opportunity in between roles, and I think it has shown to me that
travel is where you belong.
I want to be.
I like that. I love that. And whose career inspires you and why? Is there any particular person or any particular thing or company or group of people who inspire you?
Who inspires me? Again, so many, but I think I actually get a lot of inspiration from just everyday people doing great things. So we've got fantastic leaders, we've got, icons all over the world, celebrities, all sorts, but I am generally inspired day to day by normal people doing brilliant things. And I think there's a lot
to learn from everyday people. And I think that's a great note to end the podcast on. Thank you so much for joining the Indie Travel No podcast, and we look forward to seeing amazing things from Donna in the future.
Thanks a lot, Jamie-Lee.
Thank you. The Indie Travel No podcast is powered by AVIS Budget Group, a global mobility provider operating in over 160 countries, creating a diverse and inclusive culture. Their brands include AVIS, Budget, and Zipcar. They work to connect you to more. They are a team of visionaries, inventors, and achievers, driving technology that will revolutionize the world. They have roles in airports, operations, corporate, and support teams. To find out more, visit avisbudgetgroup.jobs to browse their latest global vacancies.